You're welcome.
Okay, so it's 7:07. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're gonna follow the agenda. We'll go around and all right, it is being recorded. I'm Sergio Villaverde. I'm a retired commander from the Coast Guard Reserve, and I have the privilege of chairing the Special Committee on Veteran Services for Community Board number 8. I've been on the board 9 or 10 years now, actually, for a good long time. So when this committee was formed and then formed again, I was happy to volunteer to be chair and try to move things forward and keep veterans issues at the forefront of people's minds. So I will let's go around the room in no particular order. We'll start as I see you guys. Stephanie.
You're muted.
Yep, sorry, was not unmuting. Stephanie Ehrlich, and I am with Van Cortlandt Park Alliance. I'm the executive director, and I'm also the park administrator for Van Cortlandt Park as part of the Parks Department. Happy to see some new faces, some folks I don't know, and some very, very old faces, not familiar faces.
Miriam?
I'm Miriam Rabna. I'm one of the old faces she was referring to. I know it, age discrimination. It's the first time I'm attending, actually. I work for MJHS Hospice and Palliative Care together with Tommy Lamb. I am not a veteran, he is. We both work for cultural sensitivity. We have a very robust veterans program that he can describe. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Bronx and Upper Manhattan, and I'm in the community helping people make tough decisions when they get a terminal diagnosis.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for being present. Mr. Lamb.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Lamb. I'm the veteran liaison for MJHS. I work with a lot of veterans who are in our program and in our care, and I provide families with benefit information and things that they don't know about veteran benefits that the veteran may be entitled to, along with their spouses. So I work alongside Miriam and many other team members, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm also a Navy veteran.
Okay, thank you for your service.
Oh yeah, no worries. Thank you for yours.
All right, Rob Spalter.
Hi, I'm just a community member. I've been involved with this community board for like over 30 years, like my wife, but veterans issues are important to me. And I always see you at the Memorial Grove things and other things in the community. So I just wanted us to be supportive.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Chairman Dinowitz.
I think I'm going to be presenting later, but I'm Councilmember Dinowitz. I chair the Veterans Committee in the New York City Council, and I'll be going into more detail about that. I guess when it's my turn on the agenda.
Yes, which is next.
Okay, great.
All right, Julia Gomez.
Hi, my name is Julia Gomez. I am the chair of the Youth Committee, as well as being a board member. I'm part of also economic development, and I just got part of SCREE, and I look forward to working with.
And Julia is also a board member assigned to this committee. So she's a fellow board member. And Lorenzo?
Yeah, hi everybody. Lorenzo or Enzo Manzano. I work for Councilmember Dinowitz, and I deal with all the issues pertaining to Community Board 8.
Wow, who doesn't like you? Okay. Just kidding. We kid, because we can laugh at ourselves a little bit, right? Okay. And Mr. David Gelman.
Hi. Yes, I'm a member of the community board, and also, I guess, one of those older members that Stephanie was referring to earlier. But that's why I don't have my camera on, because this Wall Street Journal style drawing has more dark hair than I actually have. So anyway, I'm a member of the Community Board 8, chair of the Budget Committee, and I had the pleasure of attending our event at Memorial Grove, and also the rededication of the flagpole at the Riverdale Bell Tower on Henry Hudson Parkway on Veterans Day. And so out of that, I was particularly interested in what the council member has to say is happening with the Veterans Affairs Committee. So thank
Thank you.
for allowing me to join in.
Thank you, David. And thank you for being here. You are a regular attendee, and your respect for the veterans is admirable and noted. Thank you very much. I believe that's everybody who is here. So we'll move the agenda right along to number 2, a report from our esteemed chairman of the Veterans Committee from the City Council, Mr. Dinowitz.
That's me. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was really weird when I became the chair of Veterans Committee, because then I started meeting with all these veterans groups and veterans and service members, and they all started calling me sir. And I said, please, I didn't serve. I didn't earn the sir. Please you call me Eric. If you feel the need, call me council member. They're like, no. We call you sir because we're from the South. It's not you. But it's been quite a interesting shift in culture. When I became chair of the Veterans Committee, it was very important to me to have hearings every month. The committee staff, when I took over, told me that hearings weren't something that happened every month. And the first hearing I held was about discharge status upgrade. Here in New York City, if you're a service member or a veteran, regardless of your discharge status, you get city services. The federal government pretty much only provides services if you've been honorably discharged. So think housing vouchers, think education, money for education. And this has a real impact on them, on the veterans, of being able to live their lives and in many cases not be homeless, which we see too often. But it also has an impact on our city, right? So if we think about that veteran who's not getting those federal dollars, that means that they might end up homeless. We see that veteran who is not getting those education dollars, that means they might not be able to go to school and live up to their potential as a veteran. But before I was steeped in veterans issues, when I hear someone is not honorably discharged, it means they were dishonorably discharged. I think a few good men, code red, that whole thing, but it's not the case. That's not real life. There are multiple ways you can be discharged that's other than honorable, besides dishonorable discharge. And the reality is that, you can think of the dramatic version of the code red, or you could think of someone's LGBTQ status during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You could think of a woman being pregnant and being discharged other than honorable for that. You could think of a person's skin color effect. These are all things that have happened over the course of the history of the United States Army. And of course, we are addressing it more and more now and learning more about it now and confronting it more now, but that's mental health issues, where if someone did something to earn them an other than honorable discharge, that was really a result of a mental health need that was going unaddressed, that, perhaps those veterans should have a shot at their dignity and honorable discharge and in the benefits that go along with that. And so my first hearing was about discharge status upgrade and the support that we are giving to our veterans to upgrade their discharge status and the support we're doing for that, because they can appeal it, especially now there's more moves being made for people with mental health needs or for people in the LGBTQ plus community who are discharged because of that. But they need a lawyer. They need help. There's a lot of documents, a lot of work to be done. So that was our first hearing in September. And it's something we're still working on. It's something that still comes up at every single hearing that we do. And the other big issue we have in the city is identifying veterans. So again, at every committee hearing I've had, and I'll go through the other ones I've had, but what's being done to identify veterans? One of the things the mayor did in March was Executive Order 65, which said that city agencies have to, on their intake forms, ask if someone is a veteran or a service member. So I think if you're in an older adult center, when you're getting information about them, you should also be asking if they're a veteran. And what that does is ideally it allows the city to identify the veteran, to identify them and reach out to them and offer services, ideally, right? So some of the issues we deal with are that the veterans don't get those services. There aren't enough service providers and nonprofits to do that work. There are problems with the computer system that connects them. So those are some of the issues we're facing. The push that I tried to do at the last committee meeting was say, have you worked with the health department on the vaccination forms? And I think, unfortunately, we missed a big opportunity as the vaccine mandates went into effect. We saw a big uptick in people who were vaccinated, but we weren't asking them if they were veterans. So I'm going to keep pushing because hopefully as people get their second shot or they get the boosters, or those people who still haven't been vaccinated get vaccinated, we will be asking it on those forms as well. Excuse me. In October, I held a committee meeting, and one of the things that's important to me is recognizing that veterans aren't a community just in and of themselves. They exist in our older adult centers, they exist on our community boards. And so I held a committee meeting with the immigration committee because there are groups of immigrant veterans. Many people who are foreign born join the armed services to speed up their citizenship status. And that's been since our country's founding. Non-citizens have joined our military as a pathway to citizenship. And you can become naturalized after 2 years of service during peacetime or even sooner if it's wartime. There's a bit of a problem, though. His name's Donald Trump. And I don't believe he changed the laws, but he closed a lot of the offices that provided the support for foreign-born veterans to become citizens. So the city's picking up some of the slack. I think Tammy Ducksworth in the Senate is working on bringing some of those offices back. But it leads into this problem of identifying our veterans to make sure they know all of the services that we as a city can provide them, regardless of their discharge status. And I keep talking about regardless of discharge status. I do want to let you know that I'm working on legislation to amend the city charter to make sure the city charter reflects the fact that we are serving all service members and all veterans, regardless of discharge status. So that is legislation, a charter revision that I'm working on. This week, I'm going to be holding a hearing jointly with, Thursday sounds right, with the Small Business Committee. Again, veterans are in a unique situation. One of the things we want to bring up is vendor licenses. As many of you know, street vendor licenses were expanded greatly a year or two ago. And there were other reforms that were made. But one of the things that wasn't addressed was veterans. And veterans have sort of a special category of the number of licenses they're allowed to have to vend, and actually the places in which they're allowed to vend. And they separate it based on, I think, goods like, umbrellas, I guess, and food. And so that's one of the topics that I'd like to touch on that hearing, to make sure that as we create citywide policy, that the veterans community is included in that. Speaking of including veterans, I got in a little public tiff with someone who works in the Office of Mental Health in the city, because they are there's legislation that's being proposed about mental health services in New York City. And it says that the person in charge, I think it's for a new agency within the mayor's office. But one of the things it says is that they're going to bring together who they deem necessary, whether it's agency heads or what have you, to talk about mental health. And this was a committee meeting I held last month with the Mental Health, Disabilities, and Addiction Committee. And my big point of contention was, I'd like it to explicitly state that the DVS or a representative, or the commissioner of DVS or a representative from DVS will be included in that group to talk about mental health needs, because veterans face mental health crises at a much higher rate than non-veterans, and it's very understandable. Besides seeing things that I could never imagine seeing, the veterans tell me they are taught to compartmentalize and push those feelings down, and they say they have to do it, right? And they're not complaining about it, but they have to do it in order to deal if they're in wartime or battle. Like they can't start suddenly emoting in the way we would want a civilian to do it. But they get back and they lose that camaraderie, they lose their unit, and they are suddenly thrust into a place where they don't have to compartmentalize their feelings or push them down, but they still are. And so including our veterans in these explicitly in the law is very important to me. So that's something that I was pushing for with this new mayoral agency. I mentioned before a charter revision that I'm working on. Something that I do is at the beginning of every committee meeting, at the beginning of any speech I give, I say thank you to our veterans and thank you to their families. We often thank our vets, which we should, but they leave behind a wife or a husband or mom or dad, a son or daughter, or loved ones who are often not explicitly thought of, but they bear a large burden of responsibility for a loved one going off to war. There's a Veterans Advisory Board in New York City. And the other thing this charter revision will do is add 2 members to this 11-person board. And the 2 members will be family members of veterans, to make it more inclusive and make sure that their needs are met. The other resolution, I'm also introducing a resolution in the stated meeting on December 9th, which will call on the state to pass a piece of legislation that designates New York State as a Purple Heart state. And anyone I tell this to tells me, oh, when you drive into Virginia, they're a Purple Heart state. Like they know it's a recognition of veterans who've been injured in battle. So hearings. So just to recap, hearings bring to light a lot of issues facing our veterans community, with whether it's discharge status upgrades, mental health, immigrants, or small businesses. Legislation to recognize our families and the fact that we support everyone. Resolution recognizing our veterans who received Purple Hearts and calling on New York State to become a Purple Heart state. And of course, funding to provide the lawyers and to provide the mental health services that so many of our veterans need. And with that, I wonder if there are any questions.
Now, I'm going to open it up for questions. Chairman Dinowitz, I do have a question specifically. As we are all in our agencies or doing our community outreach, does the Department of Veteran Services have like a central clearinghouse where I could tell somebody, hey, if you're a veteran, let these people know, or there's a form or something that can be submitted so that the various, as we all run into veterans, we can say, hey, you know what? If you submit this, you'll get emails regarding your benefits or things that are available from the city.
Yeah, so one thing is obviously 311, 311's for everything. But what DVS is they're spending a lot of time and energy on is VetConnect. I think it's vetconnect.org. That's sort of their central place for veterans to go to identify as a veteran, to find out all of the benefits they can avail themselves of, all of the services the city provide. And I think it even connects you to some of the state and federal websites that do a similar thing. But DVS is spending a lot of time. I can actually look. I think it's vetconnect.org.
So
it's not vetconnect.org. I'm sure Enzo knows the website, right, Enzo? VetConnect NYC.
Okay.
I can put it in a chat.
So that'll be there as because it'll be good for us to be able to post something if you have served, no matter what your discharge status is, please, go on to Vet Connect and sort of register or let them know that you exist so you can at least get the information.
And the other thing that they're working on, they hired an outside contractor to do this. It's what they're calling Vet Connect Pro. And that is what they're working on, is making sure all the city agencies know and nonprofits and any of the private industry know, and vets will go on and identify as veterans and apply for jobs there and be directly connected. So there's no chat function, but I can, Sergio, I can send you these links for the minutes, or
Please.
I can send you these links for the minutes. So there's still, so I got to test out the website. There's still, I think they just sort of did a soft launch last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe just last week. But working on those resources for veterans. But it kind of goes back to what I started with, identifying the veterans to make sure that they know these services are available. That's, what good are our services if no one accesses them?
Yes, thank you. I'll open the floor up to any questions for Councilmember Dinowitz. There's not that many of
I'm
us.
very surprised David Gelman and Rob Spalter don't have questions.
I just want to thank you. I'd like to thank you for the work you're doing for the veterans.
Okay, thank you.
Comment, not a.
I know. I wish I could. Let's just put it this way. I wish I could do more.
I think it's great because I actually have a lot of friends that actually fell in that same category. They got I have a couple buddies who were in Afghan, suffered an opiate issue because they were in the poppy seeds areas, and they were seeing a lot of trauma. So they got kicked out and they got an OTH, or general discharge, and it wasn't under honorable conditions. And then they had problems getting into the VA. The other issue that I see a lot with the vets that I go to the American Legion, Post 131 in Whitestone, New York, and I'm also associated with the New York State Navy League. A lot of issues that are pertaining to veterans is that access into the VA. A lot of veterans especially from the Vietnam era, were turned away because they get told that they made too much money, right? That's always seems to be a thing with the finances, but there's waivers for that. And a lot of vets don't know about that. It's called the 1010R form. The 1010R form allows the vets, so if they were deployed in Vietnam and they had boots on ground in a combat area, and this is general across the board, they get waived from the financial aspect. And when I asked the veteran, when you went to the VA, did you even fill out, a 1010 easy, that's the access to VA healthcare? And they said no, because the front desk told me that if I'm retired, I'm going to make too much and I can't get in. So I think there needs to be something done on the federal level where they have to, not making the front desk tell a veteran, hey, you're going to be, even though that may be the truth, but they have to get the letter from the VBA, stating that this is why they were turned away. Because I helped a lot of vets get access into the VA, and they were deployed in Vietnam. So it's kind of a big red flag for me because, at the end of life, there's a lot of things going on. And, if they were enrolled in the VA, it makes its transition process for HHA, which is home health aid, a lot more smoother and much more transparent. So, I have a lot of feelings for this because it's important. I respect the hell of what you're doing, sir. Mental health is huge. It goes the whole 10 yards, the whole 9 yards. It's huge. So I appreciate everything that you're doing in there and your voice for us. So God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding the VA, one of the things we're starting to kind of investigate is what is the relationship between the city and the VA, and that there is a liaison that's supposed to be working with them. And so that's something I can bring up to them to see if that's an area where the city services can be, help provide access or help provide information to our veterans.
Right. Because no, I apologize. I just there are a lot of veteran families that I have helped that aren't enrolled into the VA, and they haven't been enrolled for 20, 30 years, because they were mom or dad was turned away. And and then when I go back and I look at, sometimes I see their DD 214s and I see where they were at because, the breakdown at the end, I'm like, wow, they were deployed. They were over there in Vietnam. I'm like, why? And it's because it was the pride. once you turn a veteran away from when they're coming to you to help, when the wolves come into the cave and the cave rejects, it's kind of a slap in the face. And I'm not saying that happens everywhere, but I'm saying that numbers don't lie. And I've seen a lot of it. So, and there's a lot of veterans out there that, that are much more vocal about it in a constructive manner. But more needs to be said, maybe at a state level or even in the Fed level, like more encouragement to come to the VA or even enroll. There's so many ways to enroll now. You can do it on the phone, online, there's a whole bunch of ways. So
Right. Well,
and just to add that when I say identify veterans, that you're sort of touching on the multi-layered problem, right? Which is there are veterans who identify as veterans and they don't know that the city has services, so they don't identify with the city. But there are also veterans who feel shame for one reason or another. Maybe they were turned away from the VA and they kind of have this sort of, I don't want that to be part of my life anymore. They have this discharge status where, they don't want to, they had this moment, they don't want to be identified as a vet for themselves, let alone with a government agency. But I do just want to tell you about one of the organizations we're funding at NYU. And you reminded me of this when you said you had friends. There are non-veterans who have friends in the armed services. And, if it was their best friend coming home with opioid addictions, that's hard. That's hard, not just on the person with the addiction, but on the friend. And so we're at NYU, for example, we were able, the council rather was able to allocate, I think over $100,000 for these services that provide the mental health services and counseling for anyone with any relationship with a veteran, because the lives of veteran touch so many out, within their circle. And so I say thank you veterans for their service. Thank you to the families. We don't say thank you to the friends, but we should also recognize that it can impact their friends too. Sergio, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just would have forgotten if.
No, that's fine. That's why I'm here every month. That's why every meeting, and you're not. That's why you're here. Thank you very much for that and for having something to say. I mean, hopefully, and that's one of the things that when we speak to DVS and when you speak to DVS, that they become a clearinghouse for is getting those applications in, because I've had similar experiences with fellow veterans. You can't appeal something that was never submitted. And that becomes the problem. Well, they said I couldn't. All right, let me see the denial, because then there's a process to appeal. And there are other groups, the Disabled American Veterans, the DAV, and there's a host of groups that will help, but you have to apply, which is hopefully something that our DVS and Vet Connect NYC will cause more people putting in for it. And then, we could really see if there's what the degree of the problem is, because Tommy's right, numbers don't lie, but we don't have all the numbers. I'm sure that's one thing for sure. We don't have all of the numbers of people who should be getting services, who got turned away at the door, who maybe just got bad information from a colleague. They told me, no, dude, you're never going to get it. And left it at that. All right. Any other questions?
And just so you know, that's reflective of what the city and the nonprofit sees. So when we hear, I think it was at the the meeting about the foreign-born vets, when they say DVS says, oh, we only have X number of vets in the city. All the nonprofits were shaking their, they were like, no. So when they testified, they said, we know we don't see all of them. And they said, like, in my nonprofit alone, we've had to provide legal services for more than the number DVS is saying they have. So there really is that issue of getting the right numbers so we can properly address the needs.
Absolutely. Thank you, council member. Any other questions for the council member?
Well, I just wanted to say that I know how important the VA is. I have a 90-year-old brother-in-law who's a Korean War vet, and it's one of the things. He's a widower and he's struggling, but he says, well, after January, I get new glasses and new hearing aids. and my niece says, he won't wear the damn hearing aids. They're in the drawer. Okay. But, it's something he looks forward to. And I have another buddy, a Vietnam vet, who it's so important to him. He has all these health issues and he says, no, go to the VA, they'll fix me up, you know? And so it's really important for people to have this, you know, they put in, they paid in advance, they paid up front. They have the right to these services, you know, they've earned this. And, you know, so it's good when you see that when it does work. And it's very painful to think that people are being turned away.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rob. It works on several levels, including this is not the reason to do it, but including, relieving localities from making up what the federal government should be doing. If we get them into the VA system where they're relying on that for their healthcare and for their other needs, that it saves us money on the other end because there's money already allocated from the federal government for that. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Any other comments or questions for our council member?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Eric, many veterans, mostly I've encountered the ones from the Vietnam area, they don't want to come forward because they have moral injury. They have all kinds of guilt and, they were despised and marginalized when they came back. And so they don't always self-identify as veteran. And yet they are aging out, those who have not succumbed to Agent Orange. And they really need the support in the healthcare and the home health hours, et cetera, et cetera. And their families need to support too, because there's a lot of repressed anger, guilt, whatever they're dealing with. And as they age, they can't control it anymore. It comes up. And it's also very helpful in reconciling and finding a modicum of peace for themselves and for their relationships.
Yeah. Sergio, you're muted if you're
I sound best when I'm muted. That's but all right. Do we have any other questions or comments for our council member? Okay, council member, thank you very much for that comprehensive report, and thank you for the work that you do. We will certainly be in touch, and hope that you will be at our next meeting, if not certainly the Enzo. Yeah, at our next meeting, since he's our community board 8 person.
Right.
Now we have a name.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, council member. I feel bad for you, Enzo. We got your name and an address now.
All good with me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. All right. So moving on to the agenda, we have our Memorial Grove. As many of us know, and I think the majority of people are on the call right now. Thank you for attending the November 7th event. It was a success as it has been for the last at least 12 years, possibly 15. That number is in flux as to how long it's been, but it was a very touching ceremony. Also because it was Mr. Herb Barrett's last year coordinating the event. Those of us who've been around the neighborhood and been around Community Board 8 know Herb Barrett. He's a Marine Corps veteran, a member of the Jewish War Veterans, and him and his partner back who passed away practically, through coercion, through sweat, through persuasion, through just sheer determination, got money to have the place cleaned up when Council Member Coppell was in, to have this, and started the ceremony, the Veterans Day ceremony there, which is the only one of its kind in the area. We've got some big parades, but on a community level, there aren't that many things similar to it. And Mr. Barrett was always the one coordinator. I was fortunate to be able to assist him for the last several years in his efforts, and I can give witness to the fact that as a result of his efforts and the Jewish War Veterans, we have this place restored, and we have this tradition in our community that honors veterans, and that's a special thing. And I think it says a lot. We've always had support of the community board. Chairperson Spalter, she's got another meeting that conflicted with this. Otherwise, she would be on this meeting because she has This is the, you can tell her, Rob, this, we noted her absence. She
I
had,
will. She's got a demerit going.
she had perfect attendance at the
Yeah.
Veterans Committees. Now she's lost her perfect attendance award.
Right.
Please let her know, but she's a big supporter, got this back together, and every chair has been. But Herb Barrett, it was a very touching event because Herb Barrett also announced that it would be his last year doing this. Herb turned 90, and for some reason, he doesn't want to continue coordinating it. So that leaves to us what to do. I know I've got a meeting pending with Stephanie because we certainly want to work with Parks. Parks has been super on the on support. They did get funding from once from Councilmember Capel when he was in, but after that, it was really all Parks. Parks just made it happen, provided the venue, provided chairs, provided personnel to really make the event happen. And that kind of, it wouldn't happen with that kind of logistical support. So we have to thank the Parks Department for always supporting the event. So now the conversation is turning to, we are trying to find a host group in the community to kind of take this under their wing. There had been some discussion of the Manhattan College Student Veteran Organization, who had worked on cleanup this year and last year over it, and they've taken a good amount of responsibility. There's been talk of the local ROTC program taking ownership of it. So we've got some conversations that are coming up this year, but we want to, and hopefully we'll have a good committee of it, because it would be my intent to really by February have at least an outline of what we're going to be doing and have the date on when we're going to be doing it for November. Maybe it's the military in me. I like to plan way ahead. I don't like to show up in October for a November event. So and there are things that you can do a year in advance. Like, we know when Veterans Day is. We know when the Sunday before Veterans Day is. It's not that complicated. So we can pick the date and work our way backwards from there. But I wanted to open up the discussion of Memorial Grove to the group to hear any other thoughts. So please, it's a small group. You don't have to raise your hand, but thank you, Rob, for having raised your hand before. I noticed that.
Yeah. I want to try to help you if I can. I'll certainly keep Chairwoman Spalter apprised of anything that's going on, and be reminding her of it. And she's a lot of times, she's working on 8 or 9 things at once on a slow day, but meanwhile she has to take a sip of coffee and eat once in a while. I can bother her then,
Right. Thank you.
I'm eating.
Thank you so much for that. And we certainly rely on the support of the community board. I've got a meeting pending with our new Parks Committee chairperson, because I believe the general consensus is that the Memorial Grove issue is something that's going to be spearheaded by this committee, by the Special Committee on Veterans, as long as it exists, in coordination with the Parks Committee. So it will always have a home, even if this committee doesn't exist. The Parks Committee will always be a place that this is housed in. So it's going to be a joint effort, and while this committee exists, rather spearheaded by us. Stephanie, did you have something?
Oh, I just wanted to say that I thought that the event was beautiful. It's the first time that I've had the opportunity to participate, and I was blown away really by the good feeling and just how absolutely professional and wonderful it was. And Herb, he's 90 years old, but you really would not know that from his spirit, and he's full of vim and vigor. So so he's a delightful person. So someone is going to have to step up and do some of the things that he has done, if not all of them, and that includes getting elected officials to attend the event. And he also the 2 groups that I think it was the Merchant Marine Academy came to present the flags.
It was SUNY Maritime and
SUNY Maritime, excuse me.
SUNY Maritime, which is a Bronx institution, by the way. Just for those of you who didn't know, it's in Throgs Neck. And the local Manhattan College Air Force ROTC did show up. You're right. So there is coordination that happens to make it a legitimate event. And that has to continue. I did get Herb's folder. I was able to pry it away from him on the condition that we have lunch so I can return it to him. So that's being scanned this week. I've been remiss with the holiday and everything and not scanning it sooner, but that's being scanned this week. So we'll have his template and everybody he calls. So my plan would be that to have the group together sometime early in the year and be sending out the invitations to save the dates very early in the year for all of us to be on it and start working backwards from there with the elected officials, the color guards and everything else.
If you would like help
Sergio, I understand.
typing it up, I would be willing to help putting it, in a Word document or something like that with all the phone numbers and the contact people, because that's the important thing. Laura and I were writing names down.
Right. Which is why I ran over to him and asked and begged him to give me his folder. So I've got it. But yes, Miriam, you were saying?
So you're looking basically for a sponsor. Am I
Yes.
understanding this right?
Yes.
And what is the amount, or are there different levels of sponsorship for the memorial event?
Well, there's no
Well-
cost. I'm sorry, Stephanie, go ahead.
Well, actually, Miriam, maybe you and I can talk a little bit offline, because this is something that Van Cortlandt Park Alliance we can take more of a role in this going forward. So I'm in an interesting position. I'm both the Parks Department administrator of the park, but I'm the executive director of the nonprofit that helps support the park. So one of the things that we at the Alliance did with Manhattan College, what we do actually throughout the year, is make sure that Memorial Grove gets raked and cleaned up and twigs get removed and all of that. So if MJHS wants to be a sponsor, that would be amazing, because that would allow us to do some more of those cleanup activities. That's something that maybe some folks from MJHS could come and do on site. There could be some volunteer opportunities for you all. You could participate in the ceremony in some way. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think
I'm just gathering information. I'm not a
Yeah.
raker. I don't do raking and windows.
But maybe Tommy does.
I'm just gathering information so we could bring it back to corporate and we could share it with our colleagues. We are a very large healthcare system, and I just like to know what we can share and what we can highlight and give people an opportunity.
That's great. That's great. And also, Tommy, you work with a lot of veterans that they might want to come and volunteer. I think that one of the things that I've personally wanted is that I've wanted some more regular cleanup. The Manhattan College kids, they come out when they can, but that really needs to be, they're young people. They have to be kind of corralled. There may be some vets who live in the area who would just come individually, come and help out, and also, in terms of feeling like you're part of something, volunteering is really great for that. The group that came to work with us is actually the student vets. So they're young people they're not, 17, 18 years old. They're in their 20s and some of them in their early 30s who are on the GI Bill. So they're, you know the program, right?
Yeah, I was actually the president in Hofstra for the SVA club and in the secretary at Stony Brook University. Yeah, so I'm very familiar with the SVA and big proponent for a lot of vets to get involved in that organization, because it's hella good. Excuse my French, but it's the opportunities that exist in the SVA is unmatched, especially when you go down to the conferences when they have them. So it's really good networking opportunity.
Yeah, and I just, I know that it makes people feel good to volunteer, and if they're doing it at the Memorial Grove, I think it'll just make them feel special. So,
Is there a Friends of Memorial Grove group?
No, I believe Herb Barrett and everybody who helped him was it.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Right. So, but that's, I'm going to ask anybody who's interested to follow up with me by email so we could set up a separate meeting just about Memorial Grove. because I think it warrants that to really have that plan going in the future. There's no chat function on this, somebody said?
No, there's no chat.
No.
Board 8.
No, there's no chat function.
Okay, Sergio ESQ is my easiest email, SERGIO, E like Echo, S like Sierra, Q like Quebec, at AOL.com. I'd like to have a follow-up meeting, sort of like just to have a coordinating group so we can start working on the outreach and the actual plan, because I think we do need to make sure that, you know, Parks is all in. That's the easy part from the community board perspective of ensuring, you know, city services come to it. But there are things that can be done. Okay, well then we don't know if Parks is all in. This is the reason that this is one of the reasons that we have this at our meeting, is because we want to make sure Parks is all in, stays all in, and discuss, the future of the Grove, and if there's going to be expansion to include more recent veterans from the borough who've actually, passed away and died in the line of duty, et cetera, et cetera. Getting, those things all require funding. And we're fortunate right now, he may not be there forever, but we've got the chair of the Veterans Committee. So we do intend to have some asks from him in terms of the actual direct funding for things that go on. So please email me after regarding the Grove. We will get something going, akin to a friends of, or at least a
Sergio, if you
working
want
group.
it, I have a Zoom account, and if you want me to set up a Zoom call for you,
Thank you, Rob. I
I can do
appreciate that.
I don't even have to stay on.
No, that's fine.
I do that for my wife.
We'll expect that you'll stay
Take
on.
the
Yes,
host and get off, and don't talk to anybody.
yes, Stephanie.
Just as a matter of convenience, setting up a nonprofit is time consuming and complicated. So if you want to have the Friends of Memorial Grove group be under the auspices of Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, I think that would be great. What we can do is we can set up a specific fund for the Grove.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think so. We don't need to reinvent any wheels. We just need to have the right thing happen to honor our veterans as we do. Thank you very much. That's an excellent idea. That's something that probably will be the first order of business. Okay. So, well, we just discussed coordinating with elected officials on veterans issues, rather. So that's pretty straightforward. If there are any other specific issues that do need attention and funding for, there are more funding sources than one might think out there, especially for veteran legal services. I know I sit on the interest on lawyer account board that funds civil legal services, that does fund throughout the state. They have millions of dollars that they give to not-for-profits who do civil outreach, which includes veteran services. So we will be following up with our electeds, because the city also gives money to entities for these things. So we need to see where they're being sent and make sure that that it's equitably divided, including within our community board. And the one of the things that I intend to ask Chair Spalter to do is to send a letter about this specific committee and what we do, that we exist, because I believe only there are not that many boards that have a veterans group, even though a few years ago, the borough president asked every board in the Bronx to have one. There aren't that many boards that have one, so I think it's important, and I will be sending a letter out, just noting our existence, and that we hear what we do and our interest and the community board's interest in veterans issues. As as with the city council, as you may have garnered from Council Member Dinowitz, our job here is, we're a small committee, but we coordinate with the other committees on veterans issues. So we get together with economic development, with housing, with health and human services on issues that affect veterans, specifically within the aegis of all these other committees. And that's rather the model that we adopt, kind of what he was getting at, that he works at DVS, he works with the Small Business Committee. We at our smaller level, do the same thing. And we are on outreach to local veterans groups. We are losing one of our main veteran institutions. I learned recently. Our VFW on Corlier Avenue.
Really?
Yes, it's being sold.
Really?
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that happened to me in Whitestone. One of the, now there's only one, and that's the American Legion.
Right. So we still have an American Legion on Van Cortlandt. I don't see much activity up there.
I think you have it flipped, Mr. Beaver. I think the VFW is on Orloff and the American Legion's down on.
Yeah. I
Thank
think it's
you.
backwards, yes.
Okay. So it's the American Legion that's leaving us. The VFW is the one on Orloff. Thank you very much, Ms. Gomez. So, but you know, they've been a staple. They've opened up their hall for different community events on a very regular basis.
Right.
I've been there for several reasons, ironically, none to do with any veteran issues, because they're so open to the community. So that will be a loss for us.
And
But-
The Irishman was filmed there.
Really?
You can't miss the scene in the hall with those huge windows and stuff.
Oh. I'll have to spend 8 hours and watch it again.
Yep.
Thank you for that, David. Maybe I just YouTube that clip. Okay. Do we, so we will attempt to have, when we do have an in-person meeting, clearly, well, not clearly, because how would anybody know? It's my intention that it happened at the American Legion, if it's still there, or at the VFW post that we have, or we also have a local run veterans housing location on Kingsbridge Road. That's diagonally across Kingsbridge and maybe Kingsbridge Terrace, diagonally across from the VA hospital, but it is on the Community Board 8 side of the street. That's the dividing line between Board 8 and Board 7. The north side of 225th Street, Kingsbridge Road, is Community Board 8. So I've met with them, and we're trying to get a few of them actually on the board, but we will be having, if we ever do have an in-person meeting, at one of those venues. So, any new business that we haven't discussed? Anyone wish to bring up anything that hasn't been discussed or covered already?
Tommy, do you want to talk about the Vet to Vet Cafe?
I'm actually hoping a Vet to Vet Cafe on December 15th at 3:30 p.m. And there I'll be discussing veteran issues and more access to veteran benefits, like showing veterans on how to use their benefits and how to gain access to them. If they, especially the biggest ones that I encounter with veterans, like the biggest issue is that a lot of veterans are missing their DD-214s. So, over the years, time fades, and I just show them how to go about that through the National Archives, phone number, faxing, emailing. So I just put out information like that. That's just one example, along with enrolling into the VA and the many ways on how to do that as well.
Great, and that's going to be when and how?
That's going to be Zoom, and I have a flyer I can send to you. And
What date is it going to be on?
December 15th at 15:30.
And it's open to the community. It's
Yep.
open to healthcare professionals. It's open to anybody who supports veterans, who serves them as friends or professionally. And we have these cafes, Vet to Vet cafes, regularly. And it's also a platform for people to get together, different age groups, different theaters that they served in, and to exchange information and reminisce and to give each other support. It's a very a friendly atmosphere. And then sometimes we have speakers, and we have Tommy who shares pertinent information.
Great. Tommy, please be sure to send me the link. Also,
Got it, sir.
also copy the, I hope you all have the community board email address. You probably do if you receive this. So let's we'll copy the community board office.
I have it, Tom.
Okay, well, copy them and just make sure you copy.
DX08, right?
That's it, yes. So copy them on it. We'll make sure it goes out to our mailing list as well. We have a bigger bang list, so we'll a bigger bang list, not a big bang list, because that's a TV show. We have a bigger bang list, a bigger outreach list that goes out. Okay, thank you very much for that, Tommy and Miriam. Any other new business? All right, any old business other than the old faces?
You didn't forget that, Sergio.
I didn't forget that comment, by the way, Stephanie. I don't know if you'll be welcome back with comments like that, Stephanie.
Oh, no, you know I was being funny, right?
No. I could say one thing about probably this group is that we're the thickest skinned kind of people who can take a joke. That's one thing we can say about the
My
group
people.
and about veterans in general. But if anybody can take a joke, it's us. No, I'm only kidding, Stephanie. All right. Seeing that there's no old business, we will adjourn at 8:05 p.m. Excellent meeting. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. Nice to meet some of
Thank
you.
you.
Nice to
Bye-bye.
meet you guys.
Nice
Thank
to
for
meet
joining.
you.
Thank you.
Miriam, is your email address? I want to just be back in touch with you. What's your email address?
mrabner @mjhs.org.
And Tommy, are you the same T Lamb?
T
Same
Lamb.
format? Okay.
Yep. T Lamb at mjhs.org. Yep, you got it.
Okay. All right.
No raking
Great to
for
meet you.
us. Okay, bye.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, guys. Good night.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. This is the end. All right. I'm ending meeting for all.
All right.
Thank you very much, Tom. You're okay even for a Navy guy.
You too, sir. Thank you, sir.
See you later.